week. Faye's getting ready to leave on vacation to Puerto Vallarta.
To PV, baby, gays, I'm coming.
And
she's getting deported.
I'm also, I don't know if you know this, I'm getting ready to go on vacation too. I'm going to Kabul.
What? No, I don't think you are.
Kabul or Kabul?
No.
Too soon?
Cabell, Massachusetts.
Too soon?
He's going to Cabell, Massachusetts.
Yeah. Going to have a very interesting show. And Jonathan Casanas is with us. And Kishi Chad.
And Victor's here with his nails.
It's not going to be that thing with me.
Viewer, make sure you zero in on Victor's nails, his purple nails.
We love to see it.
Keep them right on my...
Well, welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. It's 8 p.m. Monday, August 16th, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ plus evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Hello, and thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, you will see it. Queer News Tonight is supported by viewers like you. We're part of the Happening Out Television Network, Hotspots Magazine, and WMEG Events. Hotspots is celebrating 35 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and merged, we bring you the best of LGBTQ plus news, entertainment, and support of our LGBTQ plus community.
This evening, we're going to bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet. I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. Let's welcome anchor FayWhat. She's a radio and television personality and has the popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G together. She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events, an animal advocate, and owner of Faye's Fur Family. And she's the anchor of the travel news show Happening Out Travel. Also, make sure to catch the FayWhat show Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Good evening, Faye.
Good evening, boys. Hola, mi gente. And I'm super happy to be here. So let's welcome anchor Jonathan Casanas. He is a board member of FayWhat Miami, a nonprofit organization working to unite South Florida's diverse community in order to advance progress and unifying diverse South Florida communities throughout civic engagement, cultural programming, and education in order to prosper. He's also the co-host of the Miami Community News FayWhat Miami show, airing live Fridays at 4 p.m. Good evening, Jonathan.
What's up, chicas and chicas?
Up?
Let's welcome Kishi Chad. He's a board member of the Unity Coalition Advancing Equality and Fairness for the Latinx, Hispanic, and Indigenous LGBTQ community through education, leadership, and awareness since 2002. The first and only organization for the South Florida Latinx and Hispanic and Indigenous LGBTQ plus community advancing equality. Welcome, Kishi.
Good evening, South Florida, and happy birthday to all of the Leos. Let's welcome anchor Victor Diaz-Herman. He is a first-generation Cuban-American advocate, activist, fundraiser, and strategist. He serves as the Chief Executive Officer of Priceless, South Florida's oldest direct services agency for LGBTQ people, and a grassroots 501c3 nonprofit organization founded by gay and bisexual youth for LGBTQ youth and their allies. He is also the Chief Operating Officer of Worth International Media Group with exclusive brands such as Recommend and Preview, in the business of creating stylish, engaging, and content-rich media solutions for the global travel and tourism industry for over 50 years. Good evening, Victor.
Good evening. It's all lies, but I'm happy to be here anyway. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Monday, August 16th.
Well, tonight we begin by breaking queer news. More than 1.5 million LGBTQ Afghans are now living under the threat of certain death. Watch this.
اتلس کلن وم چې همجنس پالنې ته مې مخه کړه. د لومړي ځل لپاره ملګري مې یو فوق‌العاده حس راکړ. کله چې سره یو ځای کېدو هغه به مینه راکوله، غېږ کې به یې نیولم او رومانس به یې راسره کوو. کوژده مې زما په خوښه نه وه. ما هم خپله کوژده نه پرېښوده. هیڅ حس مې د هغې په وړاندې نه لره. له کله چې ما خپل همجنس سره اړیکه ونیوله، هغه حس چې هغه راکړ خپل مخالف جنس کې مې ونه لیده. کله چې سره یو ځای کېږو فکر کوم بله دنیا کې یو. زما ژوند کې یو کس وو، هغه سره مې کوژده هم شوې وه. کله چې له ما لرې شو 2 شپې او ورځې زه بېهوښه وم. په افغانستان کې همجنس پالنې ته په ښه سترګه نه کتل کېږي. دا یوه منفي پدیده ګڼل کېږي. که چیرې څوک پوه شي د اعدام حکم پرې صادرېدی شي. راتلونکی به مې ښایي ښه وي، ښایي بد. پخوا یو نارینه وو چې بل نارینه سره یې یوه هوټل کې واده کړی و. کله چې کورنۍ پرې خبره شوه، یو زنداني شو او بل هم له افغانستان نه فراري. کورنۍ او ټولنه کې څوک پر ما نه پوهېږي. کله کله ځان سره فکر کوم چې ولې خدای موږ داسې پیدا کړي یو، ولې دا حس را کړی چې داسې پیدا کړي یو، نو بیا ولې آزاده نه یو.
As we approach the 20th anniversary of the attacks on America on 9/11, both President Trump and President Biden had decided it was time for America to withdraw from Afghanistan. The U.S. has lost thousands of American lives and spent $2 trillion in America's longest war.
So when the White House announced a September withdrawal, they were prepared for the long-term consequences. But last night, it seems we were not. As the capital of Kabul and the government structure collapsed to the Taliban and their Sharia law as the Afghan president fled the country.
It is becoming clear that a humanitarian disaster is coming for the LGBTQ plus community as the threat of death seems certain. Homosexuality is a taboo subject in Afghanistan, rarely discussed in the media and widely condemned as immoral and un-Islamic.
As a result, there are no statistics indicating the size of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community in the country, but best estimates are between 1.5 to 1.9 million LGBT people. This BBC Afghan report by Arya Ahmadzai is shocking. The report reveals there are no gay bars in Kabul, but there are some places where LGBT people feel welcome and can gather.
But at extreme risk. An 18-year-old identified as Dawood said, quote, "In Afghanistan, homosexuality is seen as shocking, as a negative phenomenon. If we are discovered, perhaps we could even get hanged," end quote. This was before the Taliban takeover and return of Sharia law.
Queer News Tonight has reported last month that a leading Taliban judge has spoken of the horrific deaths that will be inflicted on gay people as Sharia law now returns for the first time in more than 20 years to Afghanistan. The judge, Gul Rahim, spoke frankly when he told the German newspaper Bild about the consequences for gay people in any Taliban-held territory.
The judge said, quote, "There are only 2 penalties for gays, either stoning or he has to stand behind a wall that falls on him. The wall must be 2.5 to 3 meters high. The death penalty for homosexuals is derived from interpretations of the Quran, Islam's holy book, and the Hadith, the accounts of the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad."
The Taliban government has the world's strictest interpretations of Sharia law, which as of today are now in control of the people of Afghanistan. Everyone at Happening Out television network believe on day one of this new Afghanistan that LGBTQ genocide may be a likely result of the fall of the government and the US and NATO withdrawal.
Perhaps equally shocking, in preparing this story, everyone in our newsroom openly discussed if this story was important to the LGBTQ community in the West.
Continue to watch this space.
Dramatic news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking news is what it is, you know? I mean, they only know between 1.5 to 1.9 million, which means that there's a lot more.
Right.
So can you imagine when people say that we have a choice in being homosexual? You know, there you will be stoned to death. You will die. You will be beheaded. There's reports about lesbians being raped in front of their families and then being beheaded. It's just very sad times. You know, I can't believe how quickly they took over.
Let's get the elephant out of the room. We have spent $2 trillion. We've spent 20 years to build a democratic republic in Afghanistan. Our intelligence has failed. Our money has failed. Our military desires have failed. Our democratic intentions, good intentions, have failed. So I think that there is some realism that there was little more we could do. Now the question is, in our withdrawal, what happens next? And that's a broad issue that everyone is going to look at in so many different ways, but we're focusing on the LGBTQ. Like women, being able to go to school and their rights in Afghanistan, not enough has been said in the first days leading up to what happened last night about the LGBTQ community, and especially what gay men and gay women, but especially gay men, are going to face. And it's really horrific, and I don't know there's anything we can do about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think the conflict here is, what do we do? Because, I mean, if you look back, that's one of the only things that Biden and Trump agreed on was this. And at this point, we just don't know how to feel about it, because we think we made the right decision, but here come, you know, some of the repercussions of our actions. And that's the part that hurts.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, majority of the countries in the world have laws that are homophobic. So it is a privilege to live in a country where we have rights.
It's scary times. Very scary
Well,
times.
I guess the bottom line is that we're going to continue to watch what unfolds with the Taliban control of the new Afghanistan that begins today. Well, next, let's queer up gay culture and do something a little lighter and perhaps a little humorous at the end of the story. Eminem's 19-year-old child has come out as gender fluid and bisexual. Eminem's 19-year-old child has come out as gender fluid in a video on TikTok. Stevie, whose mother is Eminem's ex-wife, Kim Scott, created the video montage of their experience with gender in the video, which began, quote, "Watch me become more comfortable with myself," end quote. Through the video, Stevie takes the viewer on the journey from before coming out to using all pronouns and embracing her gender fluidity. Stevie captured the video, quote, "forever growing and changing," end quote, and also added the hashtags of gender fluid and bi. Earlier this summer, Stevie announced on Instagram that his new name and his use of all pronouns would be used, and Stevie's TikTok page is full of supportive messages of TikTok users saying they're proud of them. In response to a commentator asking why they chose Stevie, they said, quote, "I spent a long time trying to pick a name I felt comfortable with, and the first name I felt comfortable with is Stevie," end quote.
Can I tell you that Stevie's probably the first bright light that comes out of all that mess that is Eminem's world? I mean, Kim just tried to kill herself again last week.
Oy.
Okay, police were just called to her house because she tried to kill herself. Now, the story is that they broke up, Kim and Eminem, and then she had Stevie, right, which was then called another name, okay? And then Eminem adopted Stevie, which is such a beautiful thing. But I mean, so I think this is like the biggest bright light to come out, because I mean, they've got so much drug abuse, so much, you know, sadness. But again, you know, Anita Baker's granddaughter came out a couple of weeks ago too, you know, and that was awesome to hear. So like, I think that everybody that hates us is going to end up with a gay child, you know? So I'm hoping.
I think that's what I get out of this story. And I hate to be that gay that's like, bitch, I told you so, you were gonna have, you know, I don't want to be that guy.
But you just
also,
are.
bitch, like you deserve love to have someone in our community living in your house, showing you what the world really is like, and you need to watch yourself and watch what you put in your songs, because it's gonna bite you, Hanny.
Did you just become the real Slim Shady?
No, you made a profound point, because I remember in 2000 when I think the Marshall Mathers LP came out, and violence against women, very homophobic lyrics.
Yep.
A lot of people growing up told me, be careful what you say, because you could be talking about your future child.
Exactly. Exactly.
But in an interview recently, he said that he was very proud of Stevie. So maybe he turns over a new leaf.
Of course,
you know?
Of course, because it takes when it hits home, that's when you start changing your mind. And when it's outside of your comfort zone, you know, that's when you start to realize, shit, maybe I was wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how great that she's being met with such positive reinforcement, great comments and positive support.
Yeah, you know who told us all about this in advance? Elton John. Elton John really years ago said, ignorance is ignorance, and you solve ignorance by educating. And that's why I'm going to sing with Eminem.
Right.
Yeah.
He was right. He just was right.
As he always is.
Next, let's queer up health. The American Medical Association recommends removing sex from birth certificates. The American Medical Association, the AMA, now says that a baby's sex should not be listed in the public-facing portion of birth certificates in the United States. In a June report, the Professional Medical Organization's LGBTQ+ Advisory Committee said that, quote, assigning sex using a binary variable and placing it on the public portion of the birth certificate perpetuates a view that it is immutable, end quote, and fails to recognize the medical spectrum of gender identity. To be clear, any sex designated at birth would still be recorded, it just wouldn't be publicly available. According to AMA, this information would be sent to the U.S. Standard Certificate of Live birth certificate strictly for the purposes of medical, public health, and statistical use only, end quote.
So the moment this story came out, my whole family called me. And they were like, so where do you stand on this? And obviously, it's a touchy subject because we all have non-binary friends. We want to be respectful. But when do we take it too far? And it's so scary. If you're using it for statistical value, then why remove it altogether? Why have this talk? We all know that when you're born, there are two genders. And that is the part that's sticky, because I don't want to disrespect or hurt my fellow LGBTQ people. So it's so touchy for me. I didn't know what to tell my mother, but I know coming from, you know.
What did you end up telling her?
I said, listen, I don't know yet. I don't know where I stand. I don't want to hurt my brothers and sisters. Do I find it of value? As of right now, I really don't. Taking it off really doesn't matter, because they find themselves, because they find themselves and they get to decide who they want to be after all. So that piece of paper really doesn't say anything about how they identify.
And there's, no, there's still gender-based discrimination in a lot of unfortunate preconceived notions or constructs placed on a child just when they're born. And, you know, look at how in many Eastern countries, how when they find out that it's a girl that's born, there's a lot of infanticide. You know, like, I would love to see that go away.
The AMA is taking a preventative action against very radical conservatives. This is part of the trans measure recommendations that they're making, which is there's no value in recording and identifying except in a statistical basis, which is a secondary review. So they're really trying to prevent radical use of gender as an argument. The one thing that I think is super interesting is when the AMA came out of this, I heard this in New York City, this explosion that took place, and it was Tucker Carlson's head blowing off.
You went there. 1,000%.
Tuckums.
All right. Well, I'm going to move on because it's obviously pressing ourselves.
Hey, the show came to a stop. If you thinking
well, you
about
mentioned
Tucker's
him,
head.
all of a sudden I was like, I think my head's going to blow. Yeah. I love you, my brothers and sisters. All right. Now we queer up entertainment. FX feels mighty real with Ryan Murphy's Studio 54 American Crime Story. According to Variety, FX has ordered 3 new series from the prolific television producer Studio 54 American Crime Story and the inaugural seasons of American Love Story and American Sports Story. Studio 54 will be the 4th installment of the American Crime Story series following Impeachment, which is set to premiere next month on FX. The fourth iteration will depict the rise and fall of Studio 54 co-owners Steve Rebell and Ian Schrager and their famous Manhattan discotheque, which was a mecca for New York celebs and VIPs. This isn't the first time Murphy has brought the lavish Studio 54 parties to life. The club was also a setting in the recent Halston Netflix series.
I'm fascinated by anything Studio 54. Any of the documentaries, I'm all about it, you know? So to see Ryan Murphy's portrayal of this, hell to the yeah, I am locked in. And the impeachment one, too. I'm interested in that because it's all about Clinton and, you know, with Miss Monica,
You just want to see that scene.
I just want to see the dress.
Scene we all know about. Oh, the
dress. Of course you do.
It's stiff right now.
I just want it to be good. I just want it to be quality because my fear with Ryan Murphy is, you know, he has so much shows. I don't want him to be losing quality. I don't want him to run into Tyler Perry territory where he's just on.
You went there.
I did. Tyler needs to hire some other people and quit doing everything himself.
You know, the proof of that statement, anybody watching American Horror Stories, they tricked me along with everyone else. I feel tricked because I love American Horror Story. I love the seasonal nature of many of the same actors and actresses playing different characters. This season, every single episode is different, and much of it is not so much. So,
questionable.
Right. So
I love the drive-in one.
American Horror, one. American Horror Stories kind of moved into Tyler Perry territory this year.
Bad wigs.
But it's Studio 54.
Yes, debauchery, sex, gays,
Listen, you know
horses.
You know what's great about Ryan Murphy? He's reaching people we wouldn't have reached otherwise.
Exactly.
You're right.
There are people out there who don't know who Madonna is, who don't know who Gianni Versace is.
Dare you.
So because of his work, this is a true thing.
Right.
Because of his work, he's been able to reach the younger demographic, which is really inspiring.
That's right. So he's not reaching you.
No,
He's not reaching me.
see.
No,
Got it.
he could reach for me, but he's not reaching.
Keisha, we're up for you now.
There we go. Let's queer up politics. Meet Tori Cooper, the first black trans woman on the Presidential HIV Council. Tori Cooper said the first time she used her voice as an advocate was about 20 years ago when she worked on a Centers for Disease Control and Prevention program called Sister to Sister. She and another transgender advocate adapted the HIV risk reduction program to meet the unique needs of trans women. Cooper, now the director of community engagement for the Human Rights Campaign's Transgender Justice Initiative, was recently appointed to the Presidential Advisory Council on HIV/AIDS, which was created in 1995 to provide the federal government with advice and policy recommendations regarding the prevention, treatment, and cure of HIV and AIDS. She brings her 30 years of experience in the field to the position, but she also brings her voice as a black transgender woman, the first out black trans woman to be appointed to PACHA.
Oh yeah, and Tori is fabulous. Like if you follow her, she's always like dressed impeccably from head to toe, and she is just banging. I love her. Love her. Okay, now seriously though, she's also got an incredible amount of experience. She's been fighting for advocacy for 30 years. So this appointment makes total sense to me.
I'm happy to see all of these people being put in, all of these candidates being put into positions of power who are actually right for the roles, right? Who bring their experience, who bring their diversity to the table in ways that have never been represented prior to.
Victor, did you just criticize the entire Trump cabinet?
Absolutely.
You'll say it again.
100%.
And I want to piggyback off of that because, you know, doing the show, it feels like, you know, even though we touch on a lot of things, it's good news after good news after good news. We keep hearing about trans people being appointed into these types of roles, into power, into influential places. And I think that this show is amazing for that because we forget sometimes we do have good things happening.
Going on. You know, it's very interesting. We repeat over and over and over again, representation matters. And for me, who has had a very significant evolution in understanding trans issues and trans rights, I constantly point out, wow, look at all of the advancements that are taking place in trans. While Fox News and the Gang of Three of Tucker and Sean and Laura are attacking at every night they're doing it, and we're seeing some of the southern states implement some of the laws that they're doing, we are seeing implementation of trans representation everywhere on covers of magazines, in terms of awards, in terms of decision making. It's very rewarding to see the movement that is taking place in the trans community.
Yep. And on that note, next, let's queer up trans rights. 20 organizations call on YouTube to ban targeted dead naming and misgendering of trans people. Media Matters has identified several examples of high-profile right-wing YouTube creators like Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh misgendering and dead naming trans people on the platform. These are forms of harassment that involve using a trans person's former name or incorrect pronouns, and unlike Twitter, YouTube has no explicit policy protecting trans people from being deliberately misidentified. 20 groups, including Media Matters, GLAAD, the National LGBTQ Task Force, and Centerlink, have released a letter calling on YouTube to make its platform a safer place for transgender people by updating its hate speech and harassment policies. They urge the platform to create a policy that explicitly bans creators from intentionally misidentifying trans people.
So you guys know that I have a YouTube channel, and YouTube has a bunch of rules, okay? I think that they will come around and they will make this right, especially with the task force and GLAAD up their butts. They're not gonna, wait much longer to make things right on YouTube. So I think that they will update the rules.
Yeah, I think so. And it's not only that. Like in June, I think there's a lawsuit against them for African Americans that are being discriminated as well. So it's not something new. They really need to learn. They need to watch TikTok and Facebook, and now that are doing all these AI machine learning equipments to be able to find, these types of keywords or these kinds of videos that are targeting certain organizations or certain communities.
But I think what needs to happen is they need to flip their approach so that it's proactive instead of reactive, because they should be ahead of it.
Right. Right.
In that vein, that's the number one thing that surprised me in this story. This is a no-brainer in terms of the letter action by the 20 organizations. It's no-brainer for YouTube to do it. What really surprises me is YouTube hasn't already done it.
And there's a huge increase in very popular trans-identified or trans-affirming YouTubers. So I love seeing the support from not just within the LGBT community, but there's a lot of cisgender, straight, Black women bloggers who are speaking up for trans rights, and that's what we need. It should be support across the board.
That's right.
FayWhat.
So that is our queer news for today. So let's catch up on the LGBTQ plus news surrounding COVID-19 with our special segment called Quarantine Quickies.
Queer News Tonight has reported on coronavirus on every news broadcast since January 6, 2020.
Tonight we report that as of today, more than 2,622,000 LGBTQ plus Americans have contracted COVID-19.
Queer News Tonight remembers the more than 44,000 LGBTQ plus Americans that have died from coronavirus.
But the news is improving because as of today, more than 356 million vaccination doses have been administered in the United States.
Now the CDC is closely monitoring results of the fully vaccinated. The CDC calls it breakthrough infections. As of August 9th, 2021, more than 166 million people in the United States had been fully vaccinated against COVID-19.
Of those who have been fully vaccinated, only 7,608 have been hospitalized with serious infections.
The CDC reports that through August 9th, just 1,587 have died of COVID-19 breakthrough deaths after being fully vaccinated. The COVID-19 vaccines have become a historic medical miracle, and Queer News Tonight encourages you to get the vaccine. It will allow us to return to normalcy.
Well, that's great news in terms of COVID-19. I think a lot of us are fearful about all of the news we have. We're reporting the breakthrough numbers because facts are facts and science is science. And when you have 7,000 that are hospitalized and 1,500 that have died that are fully vaccinated, while we don't want to see the hospitalizations and while we mourn the 1,500, that is out of 160 million people. It's a full stop moment.
Yeah.
In terms of the value of the vaccine.
Yeah, it really is incredible. It really is. And it's just those breakthrough cases are so small. But like we take, the reality is that a lot of people were talking bull and saying that they were vaccinated when they weren't, So then you were thinking, oh, breakthrough case. No, baby, those people were not.
Yeah.
They were just lying about being vaccinated and then finally caught up to them. Delta got your ass.
And speaking, you have to wonder if that's true in the LGBTQ community. And we're getting ready to tell you it probably isn't. So let's queer up quarantine quickies. A new survey shows 92% of LGBTQ plus American adults have been vaccinated. LGBTQ plus Americans are getting vaccinated at a remarkable rate. An impressive 92% of LGBTQ plus adults in the United States have received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, according to a new survey from the Human Rights Campaign, the HRC. That figure is significantly higher than the approximate 70% of adults in the general population who have received at least one shot. The study, sponsored by the Rockefeller Foundation, included over 15,000 respondents, marking the first major insight into the vaccination trends among the LGBTQ plus community in the United States. Although the survey found some disparity in vaccination rates across racial and ethnic lines, the gaps among LGBTQ plus Americans are far smaller than those seen in the general population, where vaccination rates are significantly higher among white people.
So does that mean that we're smarter than straights?
It means that we want to go out and have fun at our parties more than straight people.
That is definitely
That's what it means.
the case. And I think the only reason why people, well, that's horrible to say, but the people in the LGBT community, especially gay guys, are like, I want to get vaccinated so I can go party.
Get laid.
Well,
Basically.
Pride parades and our bars.
And our community, the way that we spread our money and we keep it within ourselves and we give back into our communities is really by doing that, by buying drinks, by partying, and those types of things. And I think it's really important for us to survive in that way.
And I love the HRC, and I really hope that this is actually truth, because it's hard to believe that it's so high.
The survey of the 15,000 is a blind survey, so the accuracy is very, very high, because they're not telling somebody I'm vaccinated when they're not, because it's not like me telling you, if you ask me, I'm vaccinated, because I'm speaking to you face to face. That's not what this survey did. This survey is an anonymous, where you can answer honestly with having no consequence of anyone knowing. So it's highly accurate.
But I think in other news, now anti-vaxxers and right-wing conservatives believe that 75% of LGBTQ people are going to be wearing their HRC refrigerator magnets on their faces. And that's a problem.
You really went there. You really went there.
My goodness.
And I appreciate you.
Yeah, me too.
That is our pandemic news for tonight. Next, we report on our partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine in supporting that partnership.
Happening Out Television Network broadcast the largest LGBTQ plus religious live broadcast in the world, with more than 30,000
I'll pick up for you. Watching
Please help
every
me.
Sunday
Help
at
me out, honey.
10:30 a.m. Eastern. Watch this.
My name is Lexi Goza of Lexi Goza State Farm Insurance in Midtown, Miami, Florida. I'm also a board member of the Aqua Foundation for Women and the chair of the Women's Empowerment Council for the Miami-Dade Gay and Lesbian Chamber. And Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Finally, we thank Queer News Tonight's sponsor, Best Western I-95 Fort Lauderdale. This is the closest and best choice to the famous Wilton Drive, and our hosts and guests stay at this LGBTQ+ ally partner. We encourage you to stay here when visiting South Florida.
Well, we finished tonight's Queer News headlines with what we call a segment, LGBTQ+ Flash News. In LGBTQ+ Flash News, Scott Holland's What's Hot This Week. Every week, our partners at Hotspots Magazine release Scott Holland's What's Hot This Week, featuring all of the top events in South Florida. This Thursday, the pub presents Mr. Pub, Miss Pub, and Miss Pub at Large, a preliminary competition for the Miss Florida pageantry system at 8 p.m. On Friday and Saturday, Island City Stage presents My Broadway, The Roles I Could Play, featuring Michael Scott Ross. Saturday, Fornication presents Starfucker, and Eagle Wilton Manors starring DJ Herbie James from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. with a $10 cover. Make sure to pick up the newest issue of Hotspots Magazine that will be on stands this Thursday for complete information on these and many other events throughout South Florida.
Any event called Star Effer, I am there. Thank you, Scott.
I will be at Starfucker myself. Thank you.
Yeah.
Scott.
Pageantry, role-playing, star-fucking. Who found my calendar?
Be at all of them.
If you all need lube, I got you.
Wait, how did we move to lube?
I don't know.
Where you gay boys?
Thank you.
Gay boys.
LGBTQ+ Flash News. Someone in Colorado is putting up the funniest signs, and the puns are priceless. So there's something about funny road signs that everyone seems to have a soft spot for, right? Recently brought to our attention is the fantastically puntastic Indian Hills community sign that has gained almost a cult following for its smashing one-liners, hilariously cheeky jokes, puns, and you name it. The sign makes road wisdom meet dad comedy, and the result will surely make you chuckle. Colorado native Vince Rosmirarek not only managed to put his lovely town, Indian Hills, on the map, but united all the sign humor aficionados on his Facebook page that keeps on growing. To see more, follow Indian Hills Sign on social media.
Yeah, my favorite one was, my doctor said I needed a crown. I was like, I know, right?
I can't tell you where the hell on a map Indian Hills, Colorado is, but they now have me as a follower on their Facebook account.
Nice.
Job well done.
Nice.
I too am a follower, and I can't wait to see you all in Colorado.
You know, my favorite one was actually not in Colorado, it was here in Florida.
Ooh.
And it said August 10th, and Donald Trump is getting ready to be president again. I laughed hilariously.
My favorite was, someone's therapist knows all about you.
Yes.
A few therapists know about me.
Woohoo!
All right, LGBTQ+ Flash News. What you said was very ignorant. TikToker confronts transphobic cashier at Dollar General. A TikToker encountered a particularly disturbing comparison in the Dollar General involving trans people and vaccinations, and let several store employees and random customers have it in an epic rant shared on the platform. The video comes from the Mortuary School 101 account, in which the TikToker mostly documents their mortuary students, but found a little bonus homophobia to share. According to the TikToker, the store employee had said, if a girl can identify as a boy, I can identify as vaccinated. In all caps and with a clap emoji, one commenter wrote, every ally should take note. Thank you for holding people accountable, end quote. Watch this.
I don't get that. Yeah.
You do need educated, because what you said was very ignorant.
That's what they say.
That was very rude to say. And that was a terrible comparison.
Two transgender people, and they thought it was funny.
But that doesn't make it okay. That's very rude. Okay, but you shouldn't joke like that. You don't know who's in here.
That's okay, but we have
You don't know who's in here. How do you know that I'm not trans? And I didn't take that very personally. But it's rude. And you joking about it, you do need... I'm not talking to you. Mind your business. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to her. Thank you. you. I don't need you butting in. What you said was very rude and it was very unprofessional. And yes, you do need educated, especially if you're talking like that at your job about trans people. That's super rude. That was super. It was the comparison that you made, though. What was the comparison you said? Repeat it. What did you say about it? This ignorant ass woman just made a very disheartening statement in comparison to being vaccinated to trans people. How rude. How rude. And then this assistant manager is coming up to what, defend her in her ignorant statement? Because that was rude.
She said it all. I've got nothing. You go and say it again.
Yeah. Mortuary School 101, I support you 100%. Drag them hoes.
You know, I'm very confused. Ignorance and working at Dollar General. Wait.
Ooh, not the classism.
I wanted to beat up the Dollar General cashier, but I can't lie. This bitch is there a lot.
Ooh. I was gonna say Dollar. You sold Dollar General, you ignorant bitch.
All right, Kishi, I'm going to jump to you now.
Yes. LGBTQ plus flash news. James Hormel, first openly gay U.S. ambassador, dies at 88. James Hormel, the first openly gay U.S. ambassador and a philanthropist who funded organizations to fight AIDS and promote human rights, has died. He was 88. Hormel died Friday at a San Francisco hospital with his husband Michael at his side, and while listening to his favorite Beethoven concerto. In 1997, then President Bill Clinton nominated Hormel to become U.S. ambassador to Luxembourg. Conservative Senate Republicans blocked the nomination, but 2 years later, Clinton used the executive privilege to appoint him during the congressional
recess. U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, who is openly gay, has said that as a teenager he was inspired by Hormel's confirmation fight.
Can I just remind Richard Grenell, Trump's ambassador to Germany? This was a real ambassador.
I thought Hormel was the guy who invented the ham.
No.
Then I looked it up and I thought it was badass that Nancy Pelosi officiated his wedding. So that's awesome.
That's right.
Work. Yeah, give this man a holiday. It's super special. I'm so happy to have reported on this.
I say rest in power, and thank you for your contributions to advancing our movement, both for HIV and equal rights, not just lived but legal.
All right, Victor, we're going to move on to a world story.
LGBTQ flash news. A gay couple in Taiwan wed after massive legal win for marriage equality. A gay Taiwanese Macanese couple were given the right to marry after winning their landmark case this past May. According to a report from Agence France Presse, Ting Se-yan and Guzifer Liang were able to legally get married in Taiwan after suffering pushback from the government. Although same-sex marriage is legal in the country, a loophole was discovered that prevented a Taiwanese person from marrying a partner that's from a country where gay marriage is illegal. Ting is from Taiwan, whereas Lang is from Macau, which currently doesn't recognize same-sex partnerships. Other couples with similar situations will also have to pursue legal action against the legislation in a court of law.
Well, it's interesting to me of the contradiction of having someone out of island not being able to marry because they don't recognize gay marriage. That's a loophole in the law that really astounds me.
It took them 2 years to get married, to fight for this to be able to get married. You guys better not get divorced.
Yo, straight up.
Ooh. Pressure.
Although this story was harder to read than it was to get a marriage license in Taiwan. But this is very special. And I'm glad it's happening, and I'm glad that people are going to follow suit and continue on this trend. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that they had to endure this, but I think that they paved the way for couples to come, and thank God that they did.
Yeah, exactly.
So, thanks.
So that's today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates. Share this news with your friends and family.
Post this broadcast in the many groups you are a member of.
Tonight's stories about our community deserve the attention of your family and friends.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television news in the world that is out of the closet and into the bedroom, or into the headlines. We need your support.
If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Happening Out Television Network and Queer News Tonight.
Well, I'm Al Ferguson. And, you know, it's funny. I'll tell you later. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including FayWhat and Jonathan Casanas, Kishi Chad, Victor Diaz-Herman, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus